Hello DYBSc students, welcome back to the virtual classroom. In previous lecture we have started with a new chapter, that is the host parasite relationship or host specificity. Now in this lecture we are starting with the physiological specificity. Okay, I am Dr. Aniruddha Prabhakar Bhagat, so we should start the lecture now. Now again I should repeat what has happened in the previous lecture. We have gone through the definition of the host specificity or relationship. So the properties of a pathogen that makes it capable of infecting one or more specific hosts, it's called as a host specificity. Now due to close contact or maybe intimate associations, the responsive reactions and resistance displayed by host to its parasite and the protective devices adopted by a parasite in response to its host reaction in order to establish them in their respective environment are called as host parasite interactions. So we have already seen this slide, this is from the previous lecture, that host specificity of a parasite, and there are some specialization that particular parasite have gone through, because there is a continuous relationship between host and parasite, and they have gone through several things, or they have gone through during the evolution itself. They are adapted towards each other, even though in that parasite is actually harming the host, but still host is also defending itself, so parasite is also adapting. So the kind of adaptation or the specificity that we should say is broadly divided into three parts. It is more than three, but basically they are divided into three parts, and we will see few more later. First we will complete these three parts. Now here first is the physiological specificity, second is the structural specificity, and third is the ecological specificity. Now this is important that in this lecture we will talk about the physiological specificity and see the different examples accordingly. The first thing, what is physiological specificity? We people have already seen the physiological adaptations that a host or a parasite has gone through. We will see those physiological adaptations in these slides later. So what is physiological specificity? So parasites are physiologically capable of surviving and reproducing in a foreign host. A parasite are physiologically compatible with its normal host and incapable of surviving in the foreign host. So as you can see, these two definitions, one is the second one is the much better than the first one. Parasites are physiologically compatible with its normal host, whereas they are incompatible with the foreign host. Why it is so? Because for so many years they are actually surviving in their normal host and they are not surviving in the foreign host. Foreign host doesn't mean that the parasite will die. Yes, it may live within the foreign host, but it will not be able to complete its life cycles, or maybe that host is not its natural host, which is actually responsible for completion of its life cycle. Now there are several examples, there are many examples I should say. I have gone through several examples. A certain gut tapeworms, okay, require urea for the maintenance of osmotic balance. Now remember this gut tapeworms, two examples I have shown you here. In that the Yorker izardi it's a new example, you may not find many references related with that, and the second one is the common example. So these are present in marine cartilaginous fishes, not bony fishes I should say, cartilaginous fishes like sharks, okay, skates, rays, okay, and are known to retain the high concentration of urea. Okay, they have adaptation that they retain a high concentration of urea. That concentration is between 350 to 450 millimole per liter. Okay, and there, because they are in sea, already salt, sea water is salty, so they keep, this is a kind of adaptation for them. Okay, in their extracellular and intercellular fluids for adaptation to the marine environment, and are hence reference to the ureoosmotic animals. So these are called as the ureoosmotic animals. Now these parasite travels up the food chain. So from where these parasites actually enters and how they become related with these animals. So travel from food chain as they mature the ocean. For instance, tapeworm eggs were taken up by tiny crustaceans, which is then eaten up by the bigger fishes, and then the tapeworm develop in those hosts that can be intermediate hosts until a large animal like shark eats them. Okay, and it's how full grown tapeworm ends up in the guts of shark. Okay, this is how this cycle takes place. So on land we have seen tapeworms. There are many species of tapeworms. Some of them are present in marine also. Now to survive in the marine condition also, they require urea for maintenance of osmotic balance. Okay, so but what happens, this metabolite is only available in cartilaginous fishes. Okay, which is used the urea for excretion also and other purposes that we have already have told you. And this parasite, what happens, so this parasite can actually infect only crustaceans, cartilaginous fishes, only cartilaginous fishes and no other animals or bony fishes. So what happens, they become restricted to the specific host. This restriction make them very means they can survive in other hosts, but they cannot complete the life cycle. So this is one of the example. Why this is so? Because of the physiological specificity. Because if that urea is not present or is not available, they will not be able to maintain the osmotic balance and they will die. That's why they have to survive in cartilaginous fishes only, not in other bony fishes. So another example is of the Taenia solium. Okay, in dog, can survive but never achieve reproductive ability. Now Taenia solium, other than Taenia solium, we have Taenia saginata. Okay, we will see the example of that. Now in what happens here, why they cannot survive in the dog, the reason is I have already told you that in specific adaptations. Now if you look at the I have given this diagram of cat and the dog, and I compare it with our digestive system. So if you look at the carnivore, basically dogs are carnivorous. They don't have if you look at the physiology of dogs, they are designed to eat meat actually. Okay, mostly protein and fats. Okay, they don't have a grinding teeth. Dogs only have few. Cats even don't have it. Okay, so neither are able to move the jaw in sideways. This is very important, which is needed to grind the plant material. Think of cow chewing their cud. तुम्ही लोकांना तुम्ही गाईला रवंत करताना बघितलंय. ओके, पण तुम्ही कधी कुत्र्याला किंवा मांजरीला रवंत करताना बघितलंय का? नाही. The reason is they have a very small digestive system as compared to even our digestive system, which is a longer one. Okay, so every single herbivore exists on this planet has a very large digestive system, or I should say intestine, small intestine or large intestine. Okay, and other carnivores have small, means actually if we compare, then digestive tract or our digestive, or you can say herbivorous animals digestive tract are 10 to 12 times length of their body, whereas carnivores have 3 to 6 times length of their body. Okay, this I have already told you in the previous lecture. So what happens here, Taenia solium requires some time to stable within the intestine, for survival, means to convert it from the egg or any other stage into the actual adulthood. And in adulthood also it takes some time to development of proglodids, but this thing doesn't happen in dogs or cats. So what happens, and one more thing, to survive, to achieve the reproducibility, it is necessary some external factors which are present in the gut of pig or in humans only, and these factors are not available in dog or cats. That's why Taenia solium can survive in dogs intestine or cat's intestine, but it cannot achieve the reproductive ability. That's why here comes the physiological specificity. So they are adapted more towards the pig and human intestine as compared to the dog and cat intestine. Okay. Now other than this, I would like to give you one more example. This is very important. People have done some experiment regarding the physiological specificity. To check the physiological specificity, they have selected the two species of biting lice. Okay, one is the Leparus and another is the Menacanthus. Okay, now these are present. These are the fowl or poultry based biting lice. Okay, it's a biting lice, not piercing lice. Okay, and they have successfully cultured them first of all in the optimum condition by providing them with the proper moisture, temperature, and with chicken feathers and dried blood for their food. Okay, they survived. Then what they have done after when the culture has been carried out in this experiment, so for example they have cultured two or maybe 10 or 15 lice. Now when established, when we say optimum condition has been given and they started reproducing in that culture, okay, so their number has increased. Now during this stage of reproduction itself, this particular some of the lice, okay, especially the Leparius and both, they have been given or they have changed the food. So instead of chicken feathers, okay, blood has been given, but instead of chicken feathers, the green heron feathers has been given, substituted. Okay, and it has been observed that Leparius lice died. Okay, why it is so? Because Leparius is not adapted towards, or it is not able to adapt or eat the feathers from green herons. They are more adapted towards the chicken feathers. Okay, so this shows that they are not physiologically capable of infecting green herons. Instead of that, Leparius is physiologically capable of infecting only the chicken or poultry. Okay, so this shows that they have a specific or you can say that physiologically they are adapted towards one specific host. They are incapable of survival in the other host. There is one more example before we should go towards that. When physiological specificity involves a pattern, okay, of behavior, then it is called as a ethological behavior. See, these are very important definitions. You should cover these definitions really well. So when physiological specificity involves a pattern of behavior, then it is called as a ethological behavior. For this, we one very good example is there of how these parasites actually survive and had shown the adaptation. Now we know that gravid proglottids of pork tapeworm, of Taenia solium, okay, it is closely related with the beef tapeworm. Pork and beef tapeworm. Pork tapeworm means the tapeworm which Taenia solium infects the pig, and beef tapeworm, that is Taenia saginata, it infects the cattle, and both can infect the humans. Remember, these are intermediate hosts. Humans are definitive host. So what happens here? uh, when this beef tapeworm Taenia saginata, saginatus, when voided in the fecal matter, behave in the manners suited to the feeding habit of their host. Now look at the feeding habit of the host. Taenia solium, proglottids are present in the fecal mass. They are this fecal mass is eaten up by the pigs. Okay, so basically pig feeding habitat is nearby the fecal mass. They eat it as it is. So Taenia solium don't have to, once it is defecated or it comes out of the human or present in the human fecal matter, the pig will eat in that area and they will ingest these proglottids within their body. But what happens to the cattle? This is very important. Now look at this diagram. Cattles, there is one behavior of cattles. Cattles never eat the grass where defecation has occurred. You look at the cows or even buffaloes or any of the cattle, wherever you defecate or wherever they defecate, or if they have they know that there is a defecation in some area, they don't eat grass from that area. They will eat grass from some another area. Remember. So what happens here? Proglottids which are present in the fecal matter, proglottids of Taenia saginata. Now those have to change the area towards the proper grass. This is very important. Means what? If you look at the feeding habitat of pig will eat fecal matter as it is. So Taenia solium proglottids, it doesn't have to change the space. So it will be present in fecal matter, it will be taken up by the pig, and within the pig muscles these eggs will be, or infection will occur. Okay, whereas in cow or cattle, what will happen? Cattle will not go in the area where feces or fecal matter is present. So what happens here? The proglottids, there will be one change. The position of those proglottids from the fecal matter will be changed towards the greener or some grass area. Okay, and that will be consumed by the cattle, and then they enters into the cattle. So this is a I should say the behavior, or you can say the pattern that has been observed, and this is called as a ethological behavior. Okay, remember, this is how the changes takes place. Now both can actually, now how humans get infected, because they eat the undercooked meat either from the pork or from the cattle. In the pork, possibility is more as compared to cattle. Okay, so this is very important. Now physiological compatibility often means that the parasite and its host have evolved together, as I have told you. Now this association over the period of many years result in phylogenetic specificity also. Okay, this is another term of phylogenetic specificity. Means just to give the example that what kind of changes has occurred within the parasite. So as you can see, physiological adaptation, if we take the example of adult liver fluke, Fasciola hepatica feed on bile, blood, lymph and other nutrients of the host. Okay, reserve food is mostly in the form of glycogen and fat, and they can take up. So what happens, any of the parasites, ectoparasites, they have adapted towards their environment. They can feed on the blood and lymph and nutrients. Their reserve food will be glycogen and fat. This is a kind of intracellular, if it is intracellular digestion, then this is a physiological adaptation. Now we have, why this is happening? Because of the phylogenetic specificity. So here osmoregulation, by process of osmoregulation, the endoparasitic helminths maintain the relative balance of the salts and watering their tissues. Then parasite maintains the same osmotic pressure as that of host. Then anaerobic respiration occurs. So why this is possible? Why all this thing is possible? Because of the continuous adaptation, that is phylogenetic specificity or you can say they are evolved together, okay, in association over the period of many years, and because of the period of many years they are able to present in the host. Now remember, physiological specificity means that that particular parasite cannot infect more than 2 or 3 or few hosts. It cannot infect everyone. Reason is it cannot survive in everyone. Why? Because of physiological adaptation or the changes that has happened within its body. Okay, so this is all about the physiological specifications or specificity, physiological specificity. Okay, we will stop here. In next lecture we will continue with other specificity. Thank you.